Why do Soviet military vehicles have a strange white paint on their tires? If you watch old military parades from the Soviet Union, you'll probably see that the vehicles that use tires had a strange white paint, or seem to be or made in this color, something that is not very common since military tires are usually black because of the material they are made of. And white wall tires used to be used on old luxury vehicles in the first half of the 20th century. So the Soviets were looking for more style in their military vehicles. To answer our questions, we have to travel quite far back in time. First, one have to say that we only see these tires on some specific vehicles, generally artillery and trucks that used to carry quite a lot of weight. And it's not something we'll only see in the Soviet Union, but in countries like China and North Korea, which is normal because they are countries that throughout their history have acquired vehicles from the Soviet Union, and therefore also their tires. But what's curious is that in African countries and even in the Middle East, they also use this paradigm of white tires even today. But why are they white? From the early 20s to the 50s, if we look at some Soviet military vehicles with tires, we will see tires that are white-faced. They are tires that have all-white color on their wall. This color is not paint. The tires were literally made of this color. As we all know, tires are made of rubber, which when processed has a characteristic black color. These are durable, but in the 20s and 30s, tire durability was a problem for the world's armies. Tires in combat were subjected to greater stress than those used by civilians. The military tires of heavy Soviet vehicles had to withstand at least 500 kilometers in full combat, so Soviet manufacturers used additives to make their tires more durable and resistant. Manufacturers put zinc oxide in the tires. This greatly hardened the tire, and zinc oxide was very easy and cheap to implement into the rubber mix. The rubber was not affected by the zinc, so zinc was perfect to mix with the rubber. The Soviets chose this option because it was the cheapest, as otherwise they had to improve the machinery where the tires were made. This technique was not exclusive to the Soviets, but also Europeans and Americans used it to solve the same durability problem, only in civilian vehicles. You've probably already guessed it. The zinc was what gave those Soviet tires their characteristic white color. At first, the entire tire was bathed in zinc oxide, so the tire was completely white, but later, the Soviets only applied the zinc on the sides, points where greater pressure was applied, so the tires only had a white wall. This is something very common to see in very old Soviet military vehicles between the 30s and the late 60s. As the decades passed, the use of zinc oxide was gradually reduced until it was only used on the lower parts of the tire, right where the wheel goes, up to the present day where Russian tires are now completely black. But if we think about it, these white wheels haven't been made since the 50s, and there are still military vehicles in the world that use white wall tires. But why? Are they so durable that they last for decades and can be used without any problems? The truth is no. The white tires we see on modern vehicles from the 70s to the present are actually painted tires. These are coated with a paint made up of chalk, glue, oils, and lime. The formula tends to vary, but it's usually this one. In the Soviet Union, for example, it was done for aesthetic purposes so that people could detail the vehicles very well in military parades, as they were done while it was snowing. They not only painted the edge of the tires, but also painted parts of the body so that people could see the actual size of the vehicles. In African and Middle Eastern countries, heat is a problem for tires. These become brittle with excessive exposure to the sun, and tires that are not specialized for the desert are easily affected by the sun. Because of this, in desert countries, they paint the tires with a mixture to prevent overheating, and in the process make the tires more durable by reflecting the sun. Another reason that several countries use white tires is simply for visual appeal. Since the 50s, we have seen American luxury cars with white tires. These have been used by luxury cars even up to the present, so white tires are often associated with luxury vehicles and high-status individuals, something that fits very well in military parades, The use of white tires by the Soviets has greatly impacted the culture of the countries of the former Warsaw Pact and allies. In China, for example, not having white tires on modern vehicles, they began to paint the ring where the tires rest to simulate that the tires had a white stripe. These customs are almost extinct today, and only some African and Arab countries continue to use these paradigms to safeguard the integrity of the tires.